Good morning, Bitcoiners. It is day 55, can you believe it, of Citadel Summer. This is Daniel from the Bitcoin Citadel on a Saturday morning out here by the lake. And today's show is called A New Consensus. And where this comes from is, like a lot of ideas on this show, I was inspired by Nolan Bowerly, Count BTC, current host of The Great Awakening. He used to have a show called The Breakup. It's all about Bitcoin and Bitcoin kind of in society, the way that society is organized. And he has an idea of Nakamoto consensus, not only as the way that the nodes in the peer-to-peer Bitcoin network vet blocks, right? Vet the transactions in blocks to make sure that they're following the rules of the Bitcoin protocol, right? If a miner makes a block and it doesn't meet the requirements of a valid block in the Bitcoin network, the nodes will reject it, right? And the miners, that makes the miners have to follow the rules. That's how we can be so sure that the absolute scarcity of Bitcoin, for example, is going to be enforced. So in Bitcoin, we have this Nakamoto consensus, and the Nakamoto consensus is tied to 51% of the nodes have to agree on a block in order for that block to be accepted and added to the blockchain, right? And it's Nolan's idea that that brings a lot of fault tolerance into the Bitcoin network, because we have 50. You have to have 51% agreement. You can knock 49%. 49% can be bad, and we can still come to an agreement, and we can still move Bitcoin forward. And by comparison, and what I say about that, you know that I'm a big sovereign individual enjoyer, right? And one of the thesis of the sovereign individual is that we are moving from a nation-state dominant world, an industrial age nation-state dominant world, where the megapolitics were such that the largest organization you could have of resources to fight wars, to grab as much resources as possible, was the way to organize. And we came up with two competing systems. One was the central planning communist systems, as exemplified by China now, and the other was the Western welfare states, as exemplified by the United States and Europe. The so-called free market economies, right? Moving into the information age and whatever comes next, those megapolitics don't exist anymore. And the thesis of the book is that the entities, these nation states, will fall away in importance, and the individual will be much more important, right? So Bitcoin added fuel to this fire. When Satoshi posted the Bitcoin white paper, I've said before that this was an event of the same magnitude as Martin Luther posting his 95 theses on the door of the church, right? Satoshi did the same thing in a bulletin board on the internet. And, that's led us down the path to where we are right now, with the nation state basically falling apart, right? We'll see what replaces it, but that huge the megapolitics driving the nation state with these big, huge entities, as big as possible, centralized. Because don't think that the welfare states of the West aren't centralized. They are, right? So Bitcoin separates money from state. The nation state becomes less important, and that opens the door for decentralization, and that's what Bitcoin is. It's a decentralized monetary network. It's the enemy of central banks. It's what's going to break them up, and the nation state is no longer going to be the same monolithic entity that we know now, right? So we have Nakamoto consensus on one side, and we have the current system, which Nolan very cleverly calls the World War II consensus, on the other. And the nodes that propagate this World War II consensus, where fiat money is the driving force of the economy. Basically, it's just money that is by decree, this money is good, you gotta use it, and by decree, this money has value. So how do we convince people of that? Because there's no intrinsic value. People aren't wired up to desire something just because someone said it's valuable, right? We're wired up to value rare things that are scarce, things that are beautiful. That's what people are wired up to value. So how do you get them to value something that's worthless, like a piece of paper or, a bunch of zeros and ones in a computer somewhere that you've just said, this is what we're assigning value to this. This is what you're going to use to put your time and energy in, right? That's how you're going to store it. And, we'll print as much of it as we want. It's not going to be worth as much moving forward, but hey, it's the only game in town. This is what you got to use. It's really the position that we're in right now. And the World War II consensus is what's driving that, right? And we have Bitcoin nodes in the Bitcoin network that are all programmed the same way, sort of. I won't get into knots versus core debate here, right? But the Bitcoin nodes and the peers who run those nodes are what keep the Bitcoin network honest. They govern the Bitcoin network. In the World War II consensus, the nodes that propagate the fiat, money by dictate, are the media, the military, right? Those are big players in the Bitcoin, in the fiat World War II consensus. Because if I'm going to tell you to do something and you're like, I don't want to, that's crazy. Why would I do that? You have to have a big stick to get that to work. And that's where proof of weapons, proof of war comes into play in the World War II consensus. It's always been super important. And on the other side, we have the media, which really has become the propaganda arm of the government everywhere. It really has. It's lost. It's gone so far astray from what we wanted it to be, what the founders of America, the founders of the United States wanted it to be, that it's just a joke at this point, right? And we do have some independent media in the United States, thank goodness, still, but it's and a lot of that is due to people looking at this system and just saying, I'm opting out. Not trusting the system is one of the key requirements of being a Bitcoiner at this time. People may look back to this video from 2025 and say, when hyper Bitcoinization has already happened, then these will be artifacts and be like, wow, a slice of life, right? But in this day and age, we have this World War II consensus, and the fault tolerance of this World War II consensus is a heck of a lot less than 49%. And we're seeing that now because people are opting out for different reasons, not just because, they understand this new monetary system, this new perfect money that has been developed in Bitcoin, right? There's all kinds of reasons why people are calling bullshit on the current system. So that means that these nodes, especially the media, have been kicked into overtime. And the thing about the World War II consensus is, if you look back, what the message that they've sent us has changed over time in some ways, but it's always a very narrow spectrum of belief that people who are, under the spell of this consensus are allowed to have, right? Until very recently, during the DEI and woke era, the message of the media, tended in that direction. And if you, heaven forbid, wanted to make statements that, or have beliefs that were outside of that new, those parameters that were being told to you all the time, good luck with that. We have the same thing with things like climate change, right? We have the same messages around what our attitudes are supposed to be toward all kinds of things. There's a very narrow message. I think that's, if you're looking, that I consider Trump to be more of the success of Trump to be more due to his populism, right? He's a populist, and he goes against this World War II consensus, right? He has a lot of ideas that fall outside of the mainstream media, these propagation nodes of the fiat system. And he flaunts it. That's where his power comes from. It comes from the, his populist ideas, and the fact that he breaks this frame of the World War II consensus, right? The World War II narrative. And that's what people around the world, but especially in America, love about the guy, right? Is he's the master of that. That's his secret sauce. I don't think it's the nationalism, because I think that even though that plays a big part, he wraps himself in that. I don't think that that's what people really resonate with. They resonate with the fact that he's breaking from this World War II consensus, this narrowing of what you can be. Because think about it, before Trump, we had Republicans and Democrats, and they were red and they were blue, right? But it was a uniparty. They at the end of the day, you take away some of the window dressing, and they had the same ideas about everything. When Obama came in and took over for George W. Bush, the foreign policy didn't change at all, right? It was exactly the same. As a matter of fact, Obama pushed it even further. The things that I didn't like, and I had George W. Bush derangement syndrome. That was me, right? And I actually was hopeful about Obama in the beginning. He had all these messages that were really, designed to turn people on at that time. And I got excited about him. But even before he was elected in 2008, I was like, this guy, this isn't going to change anything. And it did change things, though, in my opinion, for the worse. That was when racism, which was almost gone from America, in my opinion, really got reignited. It wasn't Trump that did that. No, it wasn't Trump. Think about it. I'll let you come to your own conclusions about that, about who did that. But, it was right around the same time that Obama came in, let's put it that way, right? So we have this World War II consensus, which is falling apart now, because it's not like Bitcoin, right? Where we can have 49% of people or 49% of nodes. We could have rogue nodes, 49%, right? Rogue miners, 49%, all trying to break the protocol, trying to change things. And as long as we have 51% consensus, we're good, right? That's pretty resilient. That's pretty robust. There's a lot of fault tolerance in that. Let's look at the World War II consensus now. We only have, Bitcoiners make up like 1% of the people. Now, more than that have heard of Bitcoin, but hardcore Bitcoiners, make up a very small percentage of the public. And we've already made a huge change. I agree with Nolan that it was Bitcoiners that swung this election to Trump, because they couldn't imagine 4 more years of the kind of, you know, progressivism, and I'm using that term as a because I don't want to say Marxism or communism, but that's where our country was going, right? They couldn't face another 4 years of that. So Bitcoiners threw their support behind Trump. Bobby Kennedy, a Bitcoiner, threw his support behind Trump. Maha Moms threw their support behind Trump. No, I'm not saying Trump has delivered on everything that he promised, because I don't think he has. But he has delivered on some key things, right? Some key populist things that he promised. And the system, has dramatically changed in the, 9 months that he's been in. Just think of it that way, right? And the World War II consensus is falling apart because it has nowhere near 49% fault tolerance. Even 1% of hardcore World War III special forces people like Bitcoiners that are, the Nakamoto, that have moved into the new consensus, the Nakamoto consensus, that don't care about the fiat propagation nodes, especially the media, those messages, that just laugh at it and say that's just stupid. That's what Nolan does in the beginning of his show every morning, is he lets us see how laughable some of the stories, the key stories, are in the media now, right? The basically the government-controlled media, the propaganda operation that we're subjected to every single day, especially if you watch TV. Oh my God, I feel sorry for boomers. They watch TV every day, Even, I don't know, what is the generation before boomers? That's my mom's generation, right? The silent generation. Every single day they watch TV. No wonder their brains are programmed the way that they are, right? But this World War II consensus is falling apart, and we can watch it. We can see it in front of our eyes. There was a reason why, when Trump first came into office, he brought in Elon Musk. And the first thing that they did is they looked at the money flows within the government, right? And they went to USAID, which is the dirtiest organization in the world. It's so funny, think about the things that, that the World War II consensus and the fiat propagation media portrays as good. And every single one of them is a dirty money laundering operation when you get to the bottom of it. I'm not going to expand on that in this video, but look at USAID. It was born as a way to propagate American culture and hegemony around the world in the Kennedy administration, as kind of an innocent way, like the Peace Corps, as a way to get money and American culture into the rest of the world, to help to bring to fight communism, really, to fight Soviet communism and Chinese communism around the world, and to propagate the American system, the classic part of the World War II consensus, right? What it turned out to be was the CIA in the 70s, after the whole Nixon thing, right? After the whole, after that whole Watergate, the Church Commission looked into the CIA. They put them under the microscope, and there was a lot of laws that were passed because Congress was forced to do it, really, I think, that had to do with the CIA. So the CIA had to take a step back, right? Well, there's a lot of operations they still wanted to fund. So what they did is they just threw the ball over to the USAID, and all the dirty stuff, all that, became the marching orders of the USAID. And the Democrat Party, the blue wing, these monsters, right, took it over, and they were using it to fund this World War II consensus, this deep state, right? Well, Trump went right in and he X'd that out. That was what Doge was all about. Department of Education gone, USAID gone. So the money flows that were helping to, propagate this World War II consensus got cut off, right? And we're still seeing the fallout from that, right? But that was the first thing he did. Number one, right? Now he's moved on to other things, including, ending like 5 different conflicts, you know what I mean, around the world. But that was the first thing that he did. And that was, along with Bitcoin, a stake in the heart of the World War II consensus. And it's not like Bitcoin. It's not resilient and robust. As you start to take away the money supply, as you start to attack, this whole fake news narrative that Trump popularized, that's a direct attack on the media, on these nodes of the World War II consensus. And what I like about it is that in the World War II consensus, you couldn't really have opinions. You couldn't voice opinions. I mean, look at during Biden. There was so much censorship. Trump got kicked off of X. The former president, the day he left office. It was even before that. It was like January 6th. He was still the sitting president. They censored him. They kicked him off of Twitter. Now, with the Nakamoto consensus, you can be a guy like me. You guys have listened to Simulation Sunday, right? I got a lot of ideas that are outside the mainstream, and I entertain those ideas and I talk about them on YouTube now, right? Because in this new consensus that we're entering into, you can have different ideas, right? That's the great thing about Bitcoin. We don't have to agree about everything. We just have to agree about, we just have to come to a Nakamoto consensus. We have to believe in Bitcoin, right? That's all we have to do. We have to get our hands on Bitcoin and we have to hold Bitcoin. That's the one data point. I love Nolan's concept of this too. He says the only data in the world that is verifiable is the Bitcoin blockchain. Anything else that has anything to do with money, this fiat money, is bullshit, right? It's not data. You can't build science around it. You can't build anything around it. It's just garbage, right? But you can build anything you want on the foundation of Bitcoin. It is a real economy, and that's where we're going. That's where we're going, and that's what's going to. We just had the sun come up. That's what's happening right now in the world. There's going to be a golden age. The sun is rising. The Nakamoto consensus is taking over. I don't know if you guys could hear it. A loon just made its call in the background. The Nakamoto consensus is the new consensus that's taking over for the World War II consensus. Wow, the sun did come up, huh? I don't even know if you guys can see me anymore. It's so bright. Tomorrow is Simulation Sunday, and I've promised a couple people have asked me to talk about the Phoenix, and it's going to be a good one. I'm already thinking about it, how I'm going to present it. So don't miss that one, please. And it's I release a video every single day. I'm not like Jordan, Nolan. Me and Jerry, we're out here every single day, right? Jerry does a live stream every day. I'm not there yet. Who knows? Maybe after Citadel Summer, I'll start doing live streams too. I don't know. I don't know what the next step is for me. But let me know how you've liked my videos so far this summer. I've had some good feedback from people. It's helped a lot. I'm trying to get better and better at it. I'm starting my own media company, Dan Incorporated. I don't know what it would be called. And I have my own company with some friends of mine, some Bitcoiners that I met in the Living in the Future community. Now we have a company called Bitcoin Citadel. I am a Bitcoin educator. I am a Bitcoin coach. I have been getting more and more clients. I don't know, thanks in part maybe to these videos. If you want to talk to me, I have a link in the description where you can schedule some time with me, right? And we can talk about whatever you want. I like to talk to people about how they can acquire Bitcoin and hold on to it, right? It's really simple to say, all you got to do is acquire Bitcoin and hold on to it. But that's really as simple as it is. We can get into some of the details when we have a conversation. But that's what I've been doing, right? I've been giving people some education and some coaching around Bitcoin, and I've had some really good feedback from those folks, and I'm super happy about it. That's going to be my life moving forward when I retire from my fiat job, and I'm actually starting it right now. That's what this whole thing is about. And I think we're getting close to the end of Citadel Summer, so I'm going to change the focus a little bit to talk more about the road to your Citadel, the path you're going to take to get there. Because, you know me, that's what I'm thinking about now, building and citadels to get through the dark time that we're going through. We're entering now before the golden age. So how can we hold on to our Bitcoin? How can we build for this golden age? That's what I'm interested in. If you're interested in that, let me know. Like, subscribe, comment. I will talk to you tomorrow. Peace.